So after going back and forth for that long, I realized that it was not the job for me. It was not the partnership that I was looking for, but it was the right place for me. I fell in love for Southern Baja in general, but during my stays on those trips, I would stay in La Paz. And to me, it was amazing, like just seeing the difference, the contrast of living in a big city like Tijuana and living in a slower paced city like La Paz, right? Including all the beaches and you name it, the outdoors, the marine life, things that I don't have in a city like Tijuana.
Welcome to Live by Design Mexico Edition, the podcast about creating freedom, adventure, and a life in Mexico that truly feels like your own. I'm your host, Taniel Chemsian. If you've been dreaming of warmer days, smarter investments, and a future designed on your terms, your journey begins here. Every week, we dive into stories, insights, and strategies to help you make Mexico not just a destination, but a new way of life. We've got so much to cover today, we had to split it into 2 episodes. So settle in and don't miss a moment. Don't wait for life to happen. Design it. And it starts right here. Hey, Ivan, welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Thank you for having me. First of all, the opportunity to share some insight and things going on here in Southern Baja, especially in La Paz. I'm glad to be over here.
Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. You know, the last few months, we've been having a lot of people contacting us and wanting to know more about real estate in La Paz because we did an interview with a gentleman from there a while back. So all of a sudden sparked all this interest. And we actually sent you a client. We received an email from someone saying, hey, do you know a real estate agent in La Paz? And so I thought, I contacted my my podcast assistant here and I said, hey, you know what? We haven't interviewed a real estate agent in La Paz. So why don't we contact this guy, Ivan, and introduce him to the world? So thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Yes.
So Ivan, so you're not originally from La Paz, correct?
No, I'm from Tijuana, border town.
Okay. All right. So how did you wind up in La Paz?
Well, it's rare. Back in 2019, I was in the midst of, I had a company that had contracts with the government from the city and eventually things went bad. I had to close the company and, it was like a breakthrough moment for me, whether I wanted to start something fresh. I have a major in international business management, but to me, going back and work for a company was not the right thing, not the right fit. I've been an entrepreneur and I like to get things started or work for myself. So it was one of those moments, right? That I was like, what's next? I'm not married. I don't have kids. So for me, I could really take any adventure coming over me. So this friend of mine invited me over to open a company close to La Paz in Southern Baja. It's a beach town called La Ventana. So we're going to start a construction company. And he said, during 2019, he's like, hey, would you like to come over? No, it was actually further later, 21. That was the year that he invited me to check it out. He's like, why don't you drive with me? We're going to spend some time over there. I want to show you the town, what would be like the things that you'd be doing. And I said, well, I might as well just go give it a try and see what he has for me. You know, he's a long friendship that I have over decades. So I took off just to sporadically to visit La Ventana and see what he wanted to build right in that beach town, which is 45 minutes from La Paz. So I was going back and forth for 8 months during the entire year of 2021 just to settle and have everything ready for this company that we wanted to open, right? So after going back and forth for that long, I realized that it was not the job for me. It was not the partnership that I was looking for, but it was the right place for me. You know, I fell in love for Southern Baja in general, but during my stays on those trips, I would stay in La Paz. And to me, it was amazing, like just seeing the difference, the contrast of living in a big city like Tijuana and living in a slower pace city like La Paz, right? Including all the beaches and you name it, the outdoors, the marine life, things that I don't have in a city like Tijuana. So it was like a eureka moment. At the end of 2021, I knew that I didn't want to be part of this project in La Ventana. It wasn't the right fit, the right partner. And it was whether going back to Tijuana, start from scratch, or what can I do in La Paz to just stay here, right? So I remember people telling me years before, like, you should work in real estate. You should work in real estate for this, for that, you name it, right? They were always giving me like compliments or things that I could use for if I wanted to be a real estate agent. So that was like a eureka moment for me. And I'm like, you know what? This is probably the place that I could work in real estate. You know, my background, I'm bilingual. I said, I really have a shot at selling to international buyers, national buyers, but I didn't know anything about the industry. So I started, scouting different real estate companies in La Paz, mostly looking for the ones that sell to international buyers and have some contact with also international sellers. So I found the right place after seeing like 3 or 4 different locations. And then, I applied for the job. I applied for the job at the end of 21. It was December. They hired me. They did an interview and they said, we're going to have another video call. I went back to Tijuana to spend Christmas and New Year's Eve with the family at the end of 2021. And then they told me, you're hired. Like, showed up anytime you can start working over here. So that's how I moved.
What was the learning curve like? Because now you entered a brand new career. So what was it like your first year, second year of selling real estate?
Wow. It was challenging in some way, but at the same time, I guess I entered at the right time. Right after the pandemic, things were great for anyone working in real estate in Southern Baja. So I started January 2022 and I had my first sale 2 months after. So to me, it was like, cause I kept listening to stories about agents that they didn't sell until a year in, 8 months in. And to me, 2 months, I had my first sale and I said, well, this is not as complicated as everyone kept telling me, you know? So I could tell that I learned more by doing deals than actually studying any courses, you know?
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Actually, it's repetition. It's you're actually, when you're actually doing the work and not just reading book after book or watching some type of a YouTube video, tutorials. And once you go out there in the real world and you're working with buyers and sellers and you're reviewing contracts, that's where the real lessons come in. So congratulations, 2 months in and you had a sale. That's kind of where a lot of agents take 6 months or even longer sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. And to me, it was a blessing, you know, because it was like, get the wheels turning. And that first year I had 9 sales altogether, which for rookie standards, people kept telling me, oh, those were really good numbers. And so to me, it was gratifying because when I moved to La Paz to give it a shot at real estate, it was like, what do I have to lose? This place to me feels like paradise. This is definitely the place where I would love to live. The very worst case scenario was that things didn't happen the way I assumed they would. And then I had to go back to Tijuana, you know, but it was a win-win for me. So I gave it a shot and the rest is history, man.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. So since you started real estate and now we're almost halfway through 2026, what are some of the changes you've seen in the market?
The changes. When I first moved here, I would say that people were buying mostly like a vacation type property, right? But I guess the pandemic switched the game for everyone because when people realized they could work remotely, now we had more people moving in renting to take a look at the city. But then I noticed people buying more for partial full-time or full-time living, you know? They said, wow, one thing they found out, it's the quality of life in a place like this, it's really nice, really good. And it's a calmer pace. People found the right balance in a city like La Paz. Well, the ones buying over here. And that was mostly the switch that I've seen over the years, right? Now it's a very established real estate market. recently things have changed, but it's mostly, I would guess the market is adjusting with when tariffs things starting happening and political things happening, whether in Mexico and the United States, but things contract a little bit, some price reductions, but inventory is still moving.
Okay. So let me ask you, so are most of your clients, most of the buyers you work with, what percentage would you say they're international buyers, like from the United States and Canada versus Mexican nationals?
Initially, when I first started, the majority of them were nationals. Now the balance has tilted towards like 60% international, 40% nationals.
Okay. And would you say but the bulk of those international buyers are Americans?
Americans and Canadians.
Okay.
I would say more Canadians than Americans.
Interesting. Okay. Well, in our market in Puerto Vallarta, I would say right now we have more American buyers than the Canadians because our market here is primarily dollar based. I don't know if La Paz, are you guys primarily priced in dollars or pesos?
I would say it's half and half. Yeah. You still find a reasonable amount of inventory priced in dollars.
Yeah. And with the exchange rate right now, the Canadians are not getting a really great exchange rate. So we're finding a lot of our Canadian clients renting for the time being. And when the exchange rate improves, then they'll come back and then purchase. So that's kind of what we're experiencing. So the international clients that you have, the Americans and Canadians that are coming down, can you share with us, like, what are some of the neighborhoods they're moving into? Like, what are some of the neighborhoods that are flourishing and growing? And what kind of properties are being built or currently found in these neighborhoods?
La Paz is not a very big city, to be honest with. It's just a little bit over 300,000 people. But most areas of attraction concentrate. The number one, we have the Malecón, which is like the oceanfront boardwalk. It's about 3 miles walkable distance. And everything that happens around El Malecón, which is on downtown area, I would say it's the highest attraction where people want to live the most. That's one area in specific. Housing, as it has been also in other cities, ever since the pandemic, prices have kept rising, right? Now, appreciation, it's been amazing in the state of Baja California Sur. So people choose to live, whether it's close to the Malecón, Esterito, it's one of the neighborhoods, very famous nowadays. People live there because they want walking distance to everything, to the Malecón, to the cafe shops, to the restaurants, it's where most social gathering happens in the city.
So Ivan, along the Malecón, if I were there, I'm walking down the Malecón, the boardwalk. I mean, what kind of properties are there for sale? Are there mostly like older colonial homes? Are there mid-rise or high-rise condominium buildings? What would you find, and what's the price range for, let's say, like a 2-bedroom condo or a house?
Just recently, I would say the last 3 years, it's been mostly condos. There's not much land available to build new projects or houses in the core area of downtown, meaning like 2-3 blocks off the Malecón. But you can find inventory, for instance, 2-bedroom condo close to the Malecón, starting somewhere around $300,000. If you find something lower than that, it's usually a 1-bedroom or a rare opportunity of a resale condo that was built probably 10 years ago. As far as houses, there's some houses, colonial style, very old houses that you can find, but they're mostly for fixer-uppers. And if they're new built houses, you can expect to find reasonable deals starting somewhere 400,000 and upwards for houses if you're close to the Malecón.
Now, for a $300,000 condo, are you getting an ocean view?
Yes, some of them it's ocean view, but most would be ocean view from a rooftop terrace that it's common share.
Got it.
Yes.
And in terms of, is it like 3 stories, 10 stories? Like, are they high rises, mid rises? What are they?
The highest, it's 7-story, because that's the city allows at the highest 7-story. It's between 4 and 7-story, depending the block. In downtown, it's either 4 or 7. That's just pertaining downtown area, right? So, because we have 2 other areas that are very important for La Paz also. Well, if you want the upscale neighborhoods, which is a small area, It's Pedregal and Puerto Cortes. And this is right at the end of the Malecón. But this is for residential. You can find resale condos somewhere starting $650,000 and upwards. But like I said, it's a gated community, ocean views. Puerto Cortes in particular has its own golf course, marina. It's a whole different experience, beach club. So that would be the part number 2 of the city that has demand for real estate. And the other one, it's called El Centenario.
I'm sorry, Ivan, you said it's at the end of the Malecón. Would that be on the north end or the south end?
The north end of the Malecón.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And it's right next to each other. You have Pedregal, which is mostly residential. And then you have Puerto Cortes right next to it. But that's like the Beverly Hills of La Paz.
Okay. And most of the people that are moving into these gated communities, are they nationals, foreigners?
You'll be amazed because anywhere else in the city, I have more international buyers. But in these 2 communities, the majority is still nationals. It's not fact.
And is it a vacation home for them, or are they permanent residents that have moved in from other parts of Mexico?
I would say it's partial. They live here 6 months out of the year, most of them. And in Pedregal de La Paz, for instance, it's mostly full-time residents. But in Puerto Cortes, where the resort is, with the golf course, marina, beach clubs, it's mostly their partial residents.
Okay. And are there direct flights? Does La Paz have an airport, or do they have to land somewhere else and take a drive?
We actually have an international airport, but not too many flights. We have one to Los Angeles. There's another one, I think, to Arizona. We need more routes to open to La Paz. Definitely.
Now, I used to go to Tijuana and party in my younger days. And I had a friend of mine his parents retired, and then they built a house in San Felipe. And at that time, it was an 8-hour drive. We're talking like the late 80s, early 90s. I'm dating myself. To drive from Los Angeles to San Felipe, I think it took around 8 hours. And the road conditions were not that great. So what are the road conditions like now? Like, what's the infrastructure now in La Paz and along the Baja coast?
One thing to know about La Paz,
excuse me.
For instance, one thing to know about La Paz, we're the capital city of the state. And we have a decent infrastructure, to be honest with, because it's something that people always think about, whether you have healthcare, what services, like what's the experience of living in La Paz. So for everyone seeing this video, we're the capital city, meaning we have pretty much a little bit of everything, The roads, there's still downtown area, there's still a lot of improvement to do, but it's been catching on. I've seen during the last 4 years, municipal government taking care of specifically like the main boulevards. Now they're doing concrete instead of asphalt as it was before. And if we talk about, for instance, differences between like San Felipe or here, San Felipe, because that's northern Baja, but it's most like a beach town, It's like these beach towns that we have close to La Paz. It's a very small population. And it's one of the reasons when I made the decision to move to La Paz, we had Laredo too, which is like 4 hours from here. But to me, I needed like a city convenience things to have around, So that would be the difference. San Felipe is more like a beach town, and it's surrounded by nothing but highways because there's nothing close to it. And for us, within driving distance, we have so many different things, 1 hour or less, Well,
when I used to go to San Felipe, I was only there twice. Again, it was 1989. And I think when I went back once in 1990, there was nothing to do in San Felipe. It was such a tiny, tiny little village by the water. I don't know what it's like now. I don't know if it's boomed, but I think the whole Baja Peninsula, like over the last 20, 30 years, has gotten really popular and a lot of growth. Like when he just explained La Paz to me and how it's growing, I didn't know that your Malecón was 3 miles long. We have a Malecón in Puerto Vallarta, and basically in 10 minutes you can go from north to south. That's basically it, right? We have a very, very small downtown area. Something you mentioned, Ivan, earlier was healthcare, which is a really big topic amongst baby boomers from the States and Canada moving to Mexico, and also Gen X now as they're slowly thinking about retirement. What is the healthcare system like there for, some of these foreigners moving in who don't speak Spanish? Do you guys have bilingual staff and doctors, and what's that like?
Yes, we do. And for instance, healthcare, some part of healthcare in Mexico, it's free, but I would only suggest to use that services for emergencies, because for anything else, the lines would be too long. The procedures, they're just slow. So I've seen through times with my clients, they whether choose to find if there's some insurance company covering costs in Mexico, meaning from the States or Canada, or if not, I highly recommend to hire some kind of insurance, healthcare insurance with a Mexican company. It's very affordable with the standards of prices of healthcare in the United States and Canada.
Yeah.
But for instance, La Paz, we have at least 3 hospitals that cover a lot of specialties. One in particular, private one, for those ones that healthcare, it's a concern. We have a great variety of specialists that can treat you for different things. We're not the underdeveloped small beach town that people could think of or perceive. I would say among the state of Baja California Sur, Cabo and La Paz by far have the best healthcare service.
Healthcare system. That's great.
Yes.
And Americans are used to their Costco and big box grocery stores. So do you guys have anything like that over there? Okay. Walmart?
Yes, we do. Actually, it's funny because Costco, it's at Cabo, but we have Walmart and Sam's Club.
Yeah.
Those are those are big retail shops that people go to, which is something that really matters for buyers when where am I going to do my shopping? Or once you start telling them that we have a Home Depot, Office Depot, then their blinds just popped open. They're like, oh, great. So the familiarity of those stores, it's great.
So for someone going to La Paz for the first time, where would you recommend that they stay? And if they're considering purchasing, what first steps would you recommend?
To stay, I would say definitely in downtown, close to Malecón, just walking distance, something 2, 3, 4 blocks behind in Malecón at the most. The hotel industry right here, it's not that big. It's mostly run by Airbnb hospitality. So you'll find reasonable prices to stay in an Airbnb. The reason why I said downtown or close to the Malecón, because that's like the main attraction, right? That's what really catches the attention of people to come in as a tourist, like visit. So first is to stay over there because you don't need a tour guide or anybody picking you up at your place to walk around and find out what the city's all about, right? And then what I usually do with my clients, if it's their first time here in town or second time, I always ask them like, do you know La Paz? What do you know about La Paz? Do you know the different neighborhoods? And they're like, no, I don't. So before sending any options for houses, I tell them, look, let's do this. Let's go on a 2 to 3 hour tour throughout the city. I'll take you to the neighborhoods of interest where appreciation happens and, where the best features that you're looking for, you can find. So I pick them up at their hotel or Airbnb and I drive them around, since it's not a big city, 2-3 hours, I can cover all these neighborhoods that there are different options, One that I didn't mention before that it's also very attractive and popular recently, it's El Centenario. El Centenario, it's going towards the airport of La Paz. From Malecón, driving distance, 15 to 20 minutes. But it's just bigger lots, bigger houses. But it's more like an organic way of living. You're not in downtown. There's not a convenience store in every corner or something like that. But they have some ocean views from there too. And people who has pets, they love it because they usually find land for a quarter of an acre or bigger than that, where they can have that kind of lifestyle, It's dirt roads, but they love it.
What kind of prices are we talking about over there?
Well, I would say it's starting on 200,000 and upwards. You can find reasonable small houses to 50,000 and upwards, you start finding more inventory. But right over there, it's mostly houses, new built, and there's plenty of inventory nowadays. These houses usually include at least like a plunge pool, rooftop terrace, some of them with ocean view. And this is really the product that's moving a lot recently.
And are these homes in a gated community?
In El Centenario, you have both options, but most of them, they're outside a gated community.
All right. And it's how far from the Malecón, did you say?
Driving distance, let's say 20 minutes driving distance. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find a lot of the foreigners moving over there having cars, or do you really don't need, like in Vallarta, it's a walking town for the most part. And I have a lot of clients that say, I don't want a car. I've driven enough in LA and New York and Chicago. When I come to Vallarta, when I move there, they're just snowbirds for a few months, they don't want to drive. They don't have a car. Do you find that to be the same in La Paz?
If you happen to live in downtown and surroundings, you can probably make it without a car. I've seen a lot of people with electric scooters and things like that moving around the downtown area. But the convenience of a car over here is that public transportation, it's not very solid. You don't have that many routes going everywhere. And people love always to drive to the local beaches or the outskirts. That's when you'll need a car. If you live in El Centenario, you definitely need a car because there's no public transportation that would bring you to downtown La Paz anytime,
And do you guys have Ubers?
Yes, we do. We do.
You do? Okay. Thanks for listening to Live by Design Mexico Edition. If there's a topic you'd love for us to cover, email us at info@tanielchemsian.com. We'd love to hear your ideas. And be sure to subscribe, share the show with a friend, and join me each week as we explore how to create freedom, adventure, and live by design under the Mexican sun. Design your days now, and your future will follow.